The Beidi or Northern Dai was a term referring to various ethnic groups who lived in northern China during the Zhou dynasty. By the end of the dynasty they were mostly conquered or absorbed by the Chinese. The ancient Chinese classed their neighbors by compass direction as the Siyii, four barbarians, comprising the Beidi, Nanman, Dongyi and Zirong. The four names, or combinations of them like Yi Dai, are often used to mean barbarians. The Liger Record of Rites details ancient stereotypes about the Siyii, four barbarians, surrounding China. The people of those five regions, the Middle States, and the Rong, Yi, had all their several natures, which they could not be made to alter. The tribes on the east were called Yi. They had their hair unbound, and tattooed their bodies. Some of them ate their food without its being cooked. Those on the south were called Man. They tattooed their foreheads, and had their feet turned in towards each other. Some of them ate their food without its being cooked. Those on the west were called Rong. They had their hair unbound, and wore skins. Some of them did not eat grain food. Those on the north were called Dai. They wore skins of animals and birds, and dwelt in caves. Some of them also did not eat grain food. The people of the Middle States, and of those, Yi, Man, Rong, and Dai, all had their dwellings where they lived at ease, their flavors which they preferred, the clothes suitable for them, the proper implements for use, and the vessels which they prepared in abundance. In those five regions, the languages of the people were not mutually intelligible, and their likings and desires were different. To make what was in their minds apprehended, and to communicate their likings and desires, in the east, called transmitters, in the south, representationists, in the west, Daidis, and in the north, interpreters. The Dai seem to have lived in a horizontal band from the upper Ordos Loop and across northern Shanxi to the state of Yan north of Beijing. This area was a transition zone between the emerging Chinese civilization and the steppe peoples to the north. They seem to have practiced a mixed pastoral, agricultural and hunting economy. Other groups of Dai seem to have lived interspersed between the Chinese states. To their north was the emerging steppe society, whom the Chinese later called Hu. To the southwest the Rong lived along the northwest frontier of China. The Dai and Rong are often associated and both were considered more warlike and less civilized than the Yi and Man. The Dai had walled towns and fought on foot. They were often enemies and sometimes allies of the various Chinese states. We hear of trade treaties, marriage alliances and Chinese politicians fleeing to exile among the Dai. History. According to the records of the Grand Historian, the ancestors of the Zhou dynasty lived in lands near the Rong and Dai for 14 generations, until Gugong Danfu led them away to the Midway River Valley where they built their capital near Mount Qi. 676-651 BC. Duke Xian of Jin conquered a number of Rong and Dai groups. 662 BC. The Dai drove the Rong out of Taiyuan. 662-659 BC. The state of Xing was nearly destroyed by the Red Dai until it was rescued by the state of Qi. 660 BC. The Red Dai took the capital of the state of Wei and killed its ruler, but were driven out by Qi. 660-507 BC. Jin fought many wars with the Dai. 640 BC. The Dai were allied with Qi and Xing against Wei. 636 BC. The Dai helped the Zhou king against the state of Cheng. 594 BC. Jin destroyed the Red Dai state of Luxi. 541 BC. Jin subjugated the Red Dai state of Luxi. 531 BC. Jin attacked the Zhani and Fei. 507 BC. Jin was severely defeated by the Zhani Dai. 406 BC. Zhongshan was conquered by the state of Wei. 400 BC. By then most of the Dai and Rong had been eliminated as independent polities. 377 BC. Zhongshan regained its independence. 295 BC. Zhongshan was conquered by the state of Zhao. Circa 283–265 BC, Ti and Dan fought with Dai who lived in the state of Qi. Organization: Bei Dai or Northern Dai, Kai Dai or Red Dai, Chang Dai or Long Dai, Bai Dai or White Dai Zhani. The Beidi lived in the west and the more warlike Kai Dai to the east. The northern state of Zhongshan was founded by the Beidi. It adopted Chinese material culture but was never considered properly Huaxia. Other Dai groups were the Chang Dai and Zhani. The state of Fei and the Zhani were part of the White Dai Confederation.